Wasn't originally planning on making a video for this project, so I'm already pretty far into it, but I figure I'll just recap what I've done so far. I was looking for a cool way to decorate my graduation cap because I have commencement coming up, and my dad suggested adding some sort of LED display to it. So I kind of went a bit overboard and I ordered this 32 by 32 NeoPixel LED display and a teensy microcontroller to power the whole thing. Now originally this display came on this sort of back plate, so the whole thing it was mounted on here, and it was pretty thick, and it had these beefy connectors on the back of it. So luckily I was able to undo some screws and strip this back plate off, and then I just desoldered these big pin header connectors that were on it, these big guys which stuck out a bit, and the power plug that was on here, and just directly soldered some wires onto the teensy, and I managed to get this thing a lot thinner. So the goal for this was to have it be able to connect to my phone or something via Bluetooth, so I have a Bluetooth module that connects to it there, and then be able to just kind of show some sort of message or whatever, maybe some sort of like stream of tweets pulled from some account and then filtered or something like that. I don't know. The plan was just to have it connect to the phone and then be able to figure out something to display on it from there. So powering the thing was another big concern that I had. I originally thought about using some sort of LiPo battery and then maybe a just some sort of voltage regulator or a buck boost converter, something like that, just to level it out. But I didn't want to have to worry about charging it and monitoring the voltage levels to see if they got too low. So I picked up this USB battery bank, which has a 2.4 amp and a 2.1 amp port, and it's able to output 4.5 amps continuous at the same time, which is good because this board can draw up to 4 amps full brightness at full white. So I needed something that could supply that power, and then I just built up this cable, 2 USB plugs connected together in parallel, and then I put some braided cable sleeving and then just brought it up to this DC jack, which plugs into just the DC port on the teensy. So that way I can just power the whole thing off of this battery bank, and then I can run this cord just off somewhere else, so I can put the battery bank in my pocket so I don't have to worry about extra weight on the cap. I was worried the most about the Bluetooth section of this build. I've tried to do Bluetooth with Arduinos before and I'd never had much luck, but I had a good breakthrough this time. So if we just take this old phone here and we connect to the Bluetooth module, we'll see it turn solid, and then this is just a terminal editor, so I can just send a command to the display as text, and it'll show up that text on the screen. Still working on the code a bit. It's pretty rudimentary right now, so that's why it disappears, but it also echoes it back over Bluetooth, so that way I can see the Bluetooth communication. And I can change the font size and all sorts of stuff within the Arduino software itself for the teensy. So that part's coming along pretty well. The next thing I needed to figure out was how to get this attached to the graduation cap. So this is my graduation cap in its current form. Don't tell my mom. I kind of took the whole thing apart. I'm sure some people would frown upon that, but whatever. The whole top part, the flat part on the top, is basically just this piece of cardboard. I cut out some sections here so that the electronics and wires on the bottom of the board would be able to sit more flush against it, and then these holes are for the capacitors here and here on the bottom of the board. So if I just place this down, I still haven't cut out a section yet for the Bluetooth module, but I will be working on that. There we go. We just line these up. This sucker sits on here, and then the Bluetooth module just kind of squirts out. Probably can stuff it under these wires or something for now. And it sits there, and then this fabric for the top part just goes over it and then gets folded under and stretched. This was all just held together with staples, so I figure I can just put it back together with staples. Obviously I'll have to take some more time than I am right now to get everything properly stretched out and all that crap, because the stupid fabric just keeps squirting out the edges whenever I fold in the other sides. But it's good enough for now. You can't even see the display underneath it, but if I power it up, where did I put the power supply? There it goes. So one issue that I'm having right now that I have to look into is the Bluetooth module doesn't power up with the rest of the teensy stuff. So you can see here it's not even blinking, even though the power supply is on and the board is on. So I found that I just have to unplug it and plug it back in. So I'm hoping I can find a way, maybe some sort of button, or if there's a like hardware reset switch on it, or a pin that I can adjust and figure out a way just to get that to automatically turn on. But I do like that with the stuff over it. I'll black out that LED, but it's pretty much invisible, the display underneath it. You can't really see anything unless it's turned on. So I'll just connect here with the phone. That's just a code thing to work out. It's pretty neat. There's also a demo that has the teensy displaying animated GIFs off of an SD card that is in it, so that'll be good for displaying different pictures and stuff that I want, and I'm hoping I can just set up a application on my phone to get to just be able to choose through things, or choose through different modes that this can operate in, where it's either displaying text or different images. So I think my next step here is to figure out what to do about that Bluetooth module not turning on, and then get everything put back together so it looks like a graduation cap again, and not just some fabric and some cardboard. So I figured that the issue with the Bluetooth module not coming on all the time was that the module itself was booting before the teensy, so it was looking for some sort of signal from the teensy to turn on, and it just wasn't getting it, so it refused to turn on. So that way when I unplugged it and plugged it back in, the teensy was already now powered up, and the module started getting the signal from there. So what I did was I basically just built this little RC circuit right here, which is just a current limiting resistor. So basically, because this is plugged into a 4 amp power supply, it's able to provide 4 amps of current down this line to here, which is more than it needs. So it only draws, I don't know what this draws, maybe 100 milliamps tops. But it has the ability to get that amount of current quickly. So this resistor just cuts down the amount of current that it can get, and then this capacitor is hooked up after the resistor. So the capacitor needs to charge to a voltage that is high enough to power the Bluetooth module before the Bluetooth module will turn on. So basically the resistor limits the amount of current that can flow into the resistor, or into the capacitor, which therefore causes it to charge slowly. And then once it finally charges up to the 5 volts, then it's able to allow the module to power on. So I think it only takes about 100 milliseconds with this configuration, but that happens to be enough to get the module to power on when the power supply is turned on. So seems like that's good for now. I'll have to play around with it. I might have to delay that even longer once I put more complex code on the teensy, if it takes longer to boot up. I'm not sure if that will happen, but if it does, then I'll have to account for that. But for now, this is working, so I think I can finally start putting the cap back together. Alright, so I just finished tacking down the display with a little bit of hot glue in each corner, and just a tiny bit under the Bluetooth module, and one on this cord just to keep everything in place. So it's pretty well attached to here now. I'm not too worried about it coming off. Alright, well that took longer than I expected, and I'm willing to admit, but I don't think it turned out too bad. There's a couple little wrinkles, but I think I can just kind of smooth them out with my hand if I need to. And this area over here is that stupid capacitor that I put in and forgot to cut out a little slot for, like the rest of the stuff. But I think that from a good distance, it's wearing it in a crowd of people, you couldn't tell too much. I'll see what I can do about these wrinkles. I should be able to smooth them out though. Not too proud of what I had to do on the back for it. I did not have whatever skills that the machine or 12-year-old sweatshop worker had put this thing together, so I ended up using hot glue on the seams, and it's not the prettiest on the bottom, but it's functional. And then to attach this part back, I didn't have any sewing needles, but I did have plenty of small nails, so there's just some nails that go through this cardboard and then just into the other piece of cardboard without going all the way through to the circuit board behind it. So what I have to do next is I have to make up right-angled USB and power connectors, because right now with this power connector doesn't really fit in too well. It has to kind of bend things to get everything powered up. Let's see if we're not actually shorting anything out. So there's our red light blinking, and then I'll make sure everything still works. And I guess I should probably double check that I put the front of the cap in the front of the cap. So if it, you see it's labeled in here, I think this end is the front of the cap. So unfortunately the screen's not at the angle, but I think I have this being the front, so that way the cord comes out the back. So I just connect to this, and then send it a message. Well, screwed that up, but that's not the end of the world. I need to, once I make that right angle connector, I can just have it be a 180, snake around, and then I think I'll have it just run across here, and then down the back, and then I'll have it with a little plug here that I'll make cover it in heat shrink or take off that casing so it's not black, just so it's less visible. And then this will plug into there. That will run through down to here, and then I'll also make a little right angle connector for a USB port, so that way I can program it without the cord getting in the way. Alright, so I finished up the right angle adapter cable. There we go. So it's just the DC plug and then the inlet on the other side. So if I bring over the cap, let me just find the power plug here. And it just seats in there nicely, not bad. And then eventually it'll get sewn on so that it'll come up here. So that way the cord will run down the back. This cord sewed on here and again down here, and then there's just a little bit of thread holding it in place down there, so that way it can plug in like that and remain relatively flat on here while I'm wearing it, which is pretty cool. And then I just took a USB cord and I bent it over like that, and that will just attach in here. And that's only for programming, so that doesn't need to be too sturdy, which it definitely isn't. So when I'm actually wearing this thing, it'll just have the power cord plugged in. So I guess it's pretty much all set now. Let's see how it looks. Not too bad, I don't think. I'll have to play around with getting the code to work and getting some more things displayed on it, but pretty cool for now.